Today I'd like to call your attention to two small books that can have a large impact. The first is entitled The Gospel in a Pluralist Society, written by Leslie Newbigin. In it, Newbigin calls us to renewed confidence in the truth of the gospel, while at the same time exploring ways that Christians can affirm their faith in a pluralist environment. Newbigin decries the domestication of the Christian message, and he holds that the Christian faith is not propositional, it is narrative. And that narrative is grounded in the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. Easter is coming. And as we prepare for Easter and rehearse the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus Christ, it's appropriate for us to hear what Newbigin has to say. He says Christ is the starting point of the narrative, of the story, but we don't see the end. While Christian faith, he says, is not universalistic, the Christian does not have the right or the responsibility of deciding who's in and who's out of God's kingdom. Unfortunately, many seem to think they do have that right, and they do have that insight, and they do have that responsibility. But let us begin and end with Christ, his death and resurrection, and let us see how we can make that story the relevant issue, not only in our lives, but as we present the gospel to others. The other book is a very different book. It's written by a former war correspondent, Chris Hedges, and he gives it the title, War is a Force That Gives Us Meaning. In the author's own words, I wrote this book not to dissuade us from war, but to understand it. We must guard against the myth of war and the drug of war that can together render us blind and callous, just as some of those we battle. This book is not a call to inaction, it is a call to repentance. Hedges believes that years ago our Vietnam experience purged us for a while of a dangerous hubris. But if we're not driven in our response to terrorist attacks by the humility of our defeat in Vietnam, we are strapping explosives around our waist. Read this book. Use it as a study guide. It will open your eyes to some of the things that all of us as Christians need to learn about peacemaking. The other thing I wanted to mention today is that this coming Sunday, April 10th, is Self-Development of People Sunday. As you probably know, once a year we celebrate the ministry of the self-development of people, a program of 1 great hour of sharing, and our presbytery has a part in self-development of people grants as we look at folks who are working to improve their own situations and are willing not just to be given funds, but to be given funds in order to learn to support themselves. When I was in Florida Presbytery, we had a grant proposal that came from a cooperative, a farm cooperative, made up of an Hispanic, an African American, and 2 Caucasian men. They came to us wanting to set up this farm cooperative to provide fresh vegetables. The grant was awarded. And the result was that as they began their work, they were able to secure various contracts, particularly the contract to supply fresh vegetables to the schools of 3 counties in that area. That's the kind of thing that the money that we give to self-development of people can accomplish. Self-development of people. Not giving a person a fish, but helping a person learn to fish and to provide for himself or herself. Remember this offering, and please give generously to self-development of people. Thank you.